Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Ride Mechanic channel. How the heck are you doing today? Listen, earlier video I released it a little bit too much premature. So I released a video on basically the train bump that happened on the Banshee roller coaster, and I wanted to correct that with another video. So let's get into that real quick.
Now get ready. Here we go.
Okay, if this is your first time here, make sure you like and subscribe, do all that stuff downstairs. It does help me out. Now, earlier, a bunch of you probably saw that I released a video on the Banshee bump. Basically, two trains ran into each other. So after I released that, I had some of you contact me and say, hey, the location that you have is not right. I said, really? Oh, okay. I make mistakes just like everybody else, right? So I said, oh, what's going on? What did I miss? And they said, well, if you look at the picture, in the background, you could see the train house. And it suddenly clicked. It's like, oh, yeah, that wouldn't be where I originally said the two trains bumped. It was between the transfer and station, which is where most of the time I would assume that was. Now, when I read through stuff online, the online stuff that I read, which was mainly just written descriptions, kind of sounded like it was between the transfer and the station. But after looking at that, I went to Google Earth real quick and I looked down. I'm like, hey, where is the actual transfer house at? And then, like most B&Ms, it is on the back side of the transfer. So you have the train house, an opening for the transfer track, and then the station. Pretty typical B&M layout. So I was like, oh yeah, you're right. I had that wrong. So that caused me to rethink it. Now, as of right now, I'm not sure if I'm going to pull that other video down yet. Now I say, why would you not pull that down? It's like, well, the video is still, for the most part, relevant. I have almost collided trains in between the transfer and the station before. That I have done and that I have seen. So that video is still somewhat relevant to just the thing in general. Now, probably have to remake the thumbnail. But for this video, we have a different problem, which is a train was sitting on the transfer track, and then the other train ran into it. That's a whole different problem now, because now you're not dealing with those booster wheels like I was talking about in the last video where the train could slide through loose booster wheels, essentially. Now we are dealing with a mechanical pinch brake that did not, in fact, pinch the train. Okay, that's a different set of scenarios. So I've had a couple of the ride operators, former ride operators, contact me from that ride, and they said, hey, Banshee is a pretty long ride. It does not have mid-course brake runs, so it's got no what I would call block brakes down the mid-run there. So they say getting the train from the back side, which in typical B&M terms, it's service, safety, transfer. That's kind of like the block stones as they go. Service, safety, transfer. So getting the train out of the service brake into the safety so the lift hill can clear in time is crucial for running three trains. I totally understand that. The B&M I worked on when we ran three trains, ops typically couldn't run it because they always stacked one up in the service brakes. It happened like constantly. It was actually slower for them to run three trains than two trains. So then the question turned to, okay, so if I got the location wrong, which is fine, again, human being, what would cause this now? Okay, so now I'm looking at a train stopped on transfer and the train behind it ran into it. All right, let's dissect that a little bit here. Okay, so the first thing is, why was the train in transfer? It was running two train operations, which means the third one was offline. So that means with one train coming up behind it from the track and one train on transfer, that means your station was empty. Okay, so why did they not advance the train into the station? Well, I can think of a number of things. Sometimes operators get distracted with stuff. They have to do shift change, that type of stuff. So sometimes there's a distraction going on there with the rain that they were having on that particular day, because it was really rainy. I could see something like a sensor getting a malfunction, basically. A sensor saying that it was blocked when it really wasn't. That was maybe preventing the train from coming into the station. On a On an invert, I'm not so sure about that happening. On a floorless coaster, which I have lots of experience with, we use light curtains on the ground, so when it rained, the light curtains would actually trip and sometimes prevent that train from coming in the station. So that was my first thought. It was like, oh, maybe they had a sensor that wasn't allowing the train to come in. Maybe the operators got busy like cooking hamburgers or something like that up there. Or maybe someone was leaning on the air gates. Really? Is that what we're going to do? Yeah, maybe someone was leaning on the air gates and they were trying to get them off the air gates before they could advance a train in. If they didn't feel the situation was safe enough to advance a train in with people hanging over the edge of the air gates, they're not going to do that. They're going to stop the ride. So that train was sitting out in the transfer area, and then around the track, here comes a second train. It goes through the service brakes, which remember, those are magnetic all the way down until they hit the mechanical brake. And then this is what was being explained to me by the former ride operators that contacted me. They said to get that train cleared of that service brake to prevent the lift hill from stopping, they brought that train all the way down right up behind the other train in transfer. Okay, so what I'm used to that train would come in service brakes and then just stop right there. It would hit the magnetic brakes and then hit that pinch brake and just lock up and stop. Okay, it's not doing anything. But in this particular ride, even though there's a train in transfer, it was programmed to say, hey, come on, bring that train forward, bring that train forward. So they brought it past that first and second set of brakes, and they brought it into that third set of brakes. And then what happened is the ride said, okay, I've got the train, stop. And then it didn't. It continued to slide forward. Again, my initial impact, about a walking speed into the back of the train, I feel is pretty correct. So the train slid right into the back of the other one, bumped it. Okay, caused some fiberglass damage, caused the bumpers to be replaced. You can check out that other video. I'll try to leave a link to it here. And, you can look at the extent of what was going to be done, what happened to that thing, and what they're going to have to do to get it back on the line. But the purpose of this video is mainly to correct the theory. So before I was talking about worn out booster wheels allowing the train to slide forward. Now, with a brake, with a mechanical brake, it's a much different scenario. The mechanical brakes have typically more than enough clamping pressure to stop the train very quickly. So I don't think clamping pressure was a deal. You take the air pressure away from them, they shut. So I don't think it was the pressure being applied that was an issue. I think it was the air gap that was in between the two. Just like the booster wheels I said on the other video that were probably too wide, I'm thinking for some reason, don't know why, the brake was also out of adjustment. So we were talking about on the other video, I said, the brake has to be about, we're going to use a number of like 250 millimeters wide on the inside, because the train is roughly 260. Throw those numbers out. So there's like 5 millimeters of, that would be the spring compression on the inside of the brake. The brake springs are pushing out and they're pushing those big shoes shut. So the spring compression on the inside would need about 10 millimeters total to work effectively. So when the brass wears down, that dimension opens up. Well, it's up to the mechanic on the daily to tighten that dimension back down. Now, here's what I don't know, maybe some of you can help me out. If that particular ride hasn't been running 3 trains for a long time, right? If it's been not running 3 trains for a long time, if it's been running 2 trains for the majority of time, then stuff like that brake opening up tension-wise is kind of easy to let go, because it's like, oh, there's no third train, we're not seeing it all the time. Is weather really a factor in this? No, not so much. Again, like the first video, those mechanical pinch brakes really don't care about water and stuff on them. They still grab. It's still like a metal to metal contact when those things touch. So I feel just like the first video, the mechanical wear in the assembly, I feel like it was just too loose. It was too wide. Where it was supposed to be, let's say 250, those brakes might have been sitting there at 253, 254, 255. And that gap was just too wide. And when it said, okay, grab the train and slow it down, it started to slow it down. Maybe the train in question also had some extra wear on its shoes on the side. Standard brake. Here we go. We'll bring out this guy again, right? For a linear pinch brake like this style, which is like an arrow style, the piece that goes in the middle right here is considered the brake fin. That's the fin that goes through there. It's a solid piece of steel, like a piece of bar, and the fin runs right through the middle, like that. And then the brake will grab and stop the fin going through there. So on inverted coasters, you typically don't have a fin above them on the B&M style. The B&M styles have a much wider base to them. So that's what they do, is they take that fin material and they line both sides of the coach with it, and you have this big wide opening that has to go through that brake. So that big wide opening isn't as easy as some of the other things where it might just be a zero where you could just look at it and say, oh yeah, that has to be adjusted. No, you need to take tools out and you have to measure it pretty much every single day. And basically when that brake went to release and grab the train, it didn't have enough pressure with the springs on the inside. The springs couldn't force enough pressure into the sides of those shoes to actually stop the train in time before it ran into the one in front of it. Is there something else that could have happened on that? Yes, absolutely there is. On the bottom side of those brake systems, there are two giant round cavities that hold several sets of springs on the inside. Those are the units that actually apply the clamping force, Macaulay Culkin-wise, to the brakes. So if one of those cylinders were to break, you physically break the output on them, and I've done this before. I have broken an output shaft on one of those before. Then the brake goes to half efficiency. Only the back side or only the front side of the brake pinches. It can still stop the train. Will it stop it the way it should? No, it won't. Will it stop it with just enough time? Maybe. Drift into the train in front of it? There's a good possibility. So I don't want to say it was a lack of maintenance, because obviously don't know what happened. But when you have a mechanical brake that doesn't work, especially a B&M mechanical brake that doesn't work, it's kind of like you either let it get out of tolerance, which is possible to do, or the thing broke for some reason. And then I have a feeling it's more of a tolerance thing, because I still go back to, why was there a train sitting in transfer? Now, I know a lot of people in the comments come back, they go, yeah, operations should have moved that thing from transfer in. That train should not have been sitting there. It's like, yeah, coulda, woulda, shoulda. I don't want to play that game, because I don't believe in blaming the operators for stuff like that. Well, if that train wasn't there, then that train wouldn't have collided into the back of that thing. Although that is true, the machine should operate regardless of what the operators do. If the difference between a failure and it working correctly was the thing that the operators had to advance it from that station, then that ride isn't working properly. Everyone that I've seen on these video reviews so far has come back and said they love the ride, they love the park, it's a great ride, it looks like a great ride, it has some awesome elements inside. I don't think this is a neglect thing. I think this might be something broke, but I kind of go back to the maintenance end of things and say, yeah, it's kind of easy to just kind of ignore that when you're not running the 3 trains. When you're only running 2 trains, it's kind of easy to like, yeah, it's fine. That's not going anywhere. Because in the mechanic's head, a lot of times they'll say, well, there's not going to be a train stopped and transfer anyway. Why would there be a train stopped and transfer? It's going to go right into the station every single time, unless there was something preventing it from going into the station. I know, difficult videos, but I had the location wrong, which means that I had to switch from booster wheels out of gap, out of tolerance, to now a pinch brake that wasn't working. And it's enough. I don't often make these correction videos, but I can easily admit when I'm wrong. I have no problem doing that. But I just wanted to put that out there that, it was between the transfer and the safety brake, basically, the way I understand a lot of layouts. And there's something going on with that mechanical brake, whether it was just simply out of tolerance and happened to go through. Again, rain doesn't really affect that stuff. So if the brass was worn down and it just happened to get stuck in the right spot and it kind of slid through there, or if something like one of the cylinders broke underneath the thing, or in that case it'd be on top of the thing. One of the cylinders broke, it would also reduce the stopping power to the point where if it was set for a nice gentle stop in that station, it might then now slide through all the way and bump the train in front of it. Anyways, I thought I better put out this video. Again, still not sure if I should take the other video down. I hate putting wrong information out there, but it is wrong to the Banshee bump, really. I do feel it is correct if you ever do see a train bump into the one in front of it from that transfer to station where I was talking about, then that video is 100% relevant. Not sure what to do there. Let me know what your thoughts are. I'm curious on that because I'm not normally one to take down videos, but I also don't want to spread misinformation. I don't want to do anything like that. So I think I'm going to do some adjustments there and figure that one back out. Okay. As always, like and subscribe, do all that stuff downstairs. You guys really know what to do. Share the video with your friends, do all that sort of stuff. If you want to email me, go ahead, ryantheridermechanic@yahoo.com. And even though it was the wrong location, you still have to stay off the air gates. Bye.